I'm
My
now
friend said that she just had to
broadcasting,
come home to college. And when my mother
and we're
asked
live.
her
Make
what she
sure my
meant by
microphone's
that,
not
she
mute.
told us that she just had to go home to watch her
Okay,
father
microphone's not
having
mute.
intercourse
What's
with her
going on, guys? I
biggest
know you guys
sister.
still can't see
She
me
said
once
it
again.
like it was a
PlayStation 5
completely
cameras are
normal
like
thing to do.
$60.
My mom took her
I know I could
aside and
just use the
asked her some more
PS4 camera
questions
if I
about what
buy
was
a
going
special
on, and
thing, but
apparently my dad, he used all
who
the
needs that?
kids, 3 girls
Anyways,
and
welcome back
boys,
to
to
another
meet
Minecraft live
or
stream. I'm
as
trying to
his
keep up with
personal
a streaming
installs. My
every single
mom made
Sunday
arrangements
thing,
for my friend to sleep over at her house, and the
but
next morning when he had
sometimes
gone
that
to
won't
work,
happen.
she called the police and made sure the girls were safe while he
So,
was arrested at his job. He kept them in check by telling them that he would kill their little
crap, what is
sister
it
and their
goes? Oh yeah.
mother if they ever told
So I have
anyone
video
about this
playing in
special
the background. I know you
relationship.
guys can
He
hear it
got
because
his
I
butt
can.
thrown in jail, and both parents lost the girls. The girls
So
were put in
there's
a
that.
special care home, and they are thriving and happy adults today with
And
kids of
right
their own.
now, I don't know if I'm
Yes,
too
I know
loud,
exactly what I was spared that day
but
by the
I
mother and
have
my friend's
my
meeting
microphone down
room.
and the
Sorry
headsets I
for the
have, the
misspelled words.
Total
Just
Beach
had to talk
Stealth
with my mom about
600s.
this, and now to right some
I can
wrongs.
actually hear
First, I
myself.
was 6
I can
years
hear
old at the
everything. I
time,
can hear
not
clapping.
8.
I can hear
My friend had 3
the
sisters, not 2,
PS5
and it
controllers
goes
or any
like this
controls
with
for
the
that
ages. Oldest was
clapping,
16 at the
and I can
time.
hear
She was the
people
one I
talking
had
to me.
forgotten about, but in my never left home unless the dad
Okay,
knew
so
in.
even with the
And
microphone
next, if mine
muted,
was 14, she was the
I
one
can
my
still hear
friend
myself.
had to
Now, I
leave that
did do
day.
some off-camera
Then
stuff.
came my friend. She
Like I
was
mined some
7
more
years
iron
old.
because I was running
And
low because
finally,
I
Jill,
actually
when
did
she
some
was
stuff in the
2 years
nether.
old and was not
I
molested,
might be
he was
thinking,
sent
Tubbs, what are you
no
talking about?
intercourse, but
I
was
don't
only
usually do
forced to
this.
watch
I
and sometimes
really
kiss
don't.
it.
But
The
I
first
did a
time
thing.
around,
Let me show you
my
guys.
mom and dad were furious, and my dad wanted to go
Now
over
this
there
did
and get
take
his D off right then
mining
and there.
some
But the
obsidian,
kids were still back home with that monster, so they
but
promised my friend that they would
I
wait
need to
until the
make some
sisters
more
were safe.
buttons
And about why my
because
friend
buttons
confided
actually
to my mother
stop
so suddenly
mobs
without
from
hesitation was
spawning.
because she had known my mom and dad for a good
I
while,
just
and
need
she
to
wanted to
remember
make
the route
sure
to
they
the.
had the clothes they
I
needed in the
hate
winter,
that
because my parents could never turn a
360
blind eye to
noise
kids
is
that
on,
needed help.
so like
And they have
I can
always
hear the
been
gas
super
behind
good
me,
at
and I
creating a
want to look
safe and
behind
loving
me,
environment for
but I
me and my
know there's
sister,
nothing behind
and
me.
kids in need of a safe haven. One thing I remember clearly was that for a long time my friend stayed for the bedtime stories my dad would read to us in the living room, and my sister and I would snuggle up against our dad while he read the stories, but my
I
friend
didn't bring
sat
any
at the other
food,
end
but
of the
that's
sofa
fine.
for the longest time. And one day she asked my dad out of the blue, "You're not a dangerous man, are you?"
Shit,
To which my dad
shit.
answered,
I did not
"Never
mean to
in a
close my
million
bad, guys.
years. Dads are the
I
ones we
forgot to bring some
protect." Then my
gold
friend
armor
asked
with
if
me,
she
and
was
I don't
snuggled
think I have any
too,
gold to
and my
craft
dad
some.
said, "Of course." And since then, she snuggled with the rest of us when it was time for our bedtime stories. The monster was sent to jail, and the mother underwent a psych evaluation and was deemed to be a victim
I
too,
was
since she
slash
was
giving
only
myself some
15 when
stuff
they
in
had
the
their first
other
child,
world
and was
slash
beaten
kill.
and mentally tortured, so she was forced to have therapy so she could keep the youngest, and it all went well until the day he found them again and moved right back in to finish the job with the youngest, who was now 8 years old. And when that was discovered, he was thrown back in jail, and the kid was taken from the mother. He also had the nerve to write letters to the other 3 kids telling them that he was being beaten in jail and was afraid for his life, and that it was all their fault. But the worst part was that people around them knew about this and did nothing for various stupid reasons. The 14-year-old told a friend's mother, who told no one because of stupid excuses, and a neighbor had apparently seen him having with the 16-year-old in their garden behind their house, and his excuse was that he thought no one would believe him. Every time someone told my parents that they felt bad for doing nothing to try to give an excuse, they told them that they weren't interested in what they had to say, because they chose to do nothing, and they had to live with the choices they made.
Alright,
What those girls had to go through could
now you guys know when I'm silent
and
and thinking about stuff,
anyone who
I'm
ever thinks that they see anything.
focusing,
I
and the
don't care
gas
if you're not
is
sure or you
behind, not
don't think
behind me,
people
that's
will
like more like
believe
over
you,
there.
you report it.
Like
Sorry, I
it's
know
to the
sometimes I
right
get worked up
behind.
with some of my
I can
comments,
hear
and
it,
it might
and
seem
I hate it,
like an
and I
affectation
was
that I'm
over
putting on
here.
or something, but this story, that's just awful. But to anyone who might
Want
have
to look
gone through
behind me
something
so
like
bad. I
this,
know there's
at least
nothing there, but I
know
can
that
just
no
hear it.
one was willing to help, and now those girls are apparently adult, well-adjusted with kids, and it's important to know that things can get better, and find someone you can trust and confide in. I'm going to take a few minutes before I read the next story, so there might be a bit of a change in tone. Story 2. One of my friend's parents used to give me homework to do. I'd go to her house and her mom would have some math or English assignment that she had come up with for us to do.
Okay.
Why did you keep going to
Not
her
this
house?
way. It's not this way.
You didn't want to fail. Story 3. My next door neighbor Kevin and I were buddies because we were the youngest in the neighborhood, and no one else
the
would
route
play
to
with
this
us.
portal.
I would say this was when I was 9
That's
or
not
10.
it. That's just a
Anyways, his
dead end.
parents
I will
worked
take some of
9
this
to 5
gold
jobs,
though.
and I remember them as being very nice, but in a forced sort of way. I wasn't allowed to go in their house because they didn't let anyone in.
Gold is
Once I had
very
to go to the
valuable
bathroom,
by
and as we
trading
were in his
standards.
yard, he let me in.
I
Every
would
single
trade
doorway
with
in the
villagers,
house
but
had
like
a
they
curtain
don't
covering
have
it.
stuff that
They made a fake hallway right at the
piglins do.
entrance so you couldn't
I
see
think
the
this is the
living room or
farthest
the
I actually
kitchen.
ever
I
gotten
asked him why they
in
were
a
there, and
Minecraft
he said his
survival
parents
world.
liked privacy. They also ate nothing but fast food. I remember the first time he had supper at my house, he was shocked.
This
And
way?
he kept telling my mom he didn't have to do something like cook a meal for her children, that just because he came over. They moved kind of suddenly when I was around 11, and I remember he couldn't really
Oh
tell
god, I
me
hate these things.
where they were going. Couldn't give me a number or an address to keep in touch, and he never called me, so sad. This protection program? When I was a kid, I played at this other kid's house once or twice. The guy was adopted by what I imagine to be some of the
Also, I put
weirdest,
coordinates
creepiest
on
people
just
ever.
in case.
First of all, the house they lived in was pretty massive. That of itself
In
wasn't
case I
so
need to
strange.
teleport
The fact
anywhere,
that
or I
absolutely
need to find
everything
those
was
coordinates
eerily neat
again.
and clean was incredibly unsettling. I'm not talking about a house just being nice and clean. It literally felt like everything had just been installed the other day. One of the reasons everything
So I'll put
looked
the
so
back
clean
on
was that we weren't
on
allowed to
all
do
my nether portals now, except for
this
the
kid
one
had
the
like a
overwood,
massive
because
collection
that's
of
going to take a
Legos.
lot of
I'm
blocks,
talking
and I need
those
to
huge
mine
building sets
and
with
mine. I'm
gems
waiting
and
till I
such
get
are
enough
costing hundreds of
diamonds to do
dollars.
that, where I
I
could
wasn't
just
ever allowed to play with them, let
slash
alone
give
let someone
diamonds.
else play with it. I believe someone put it together for him, and he was only allowed to look at it in his room. So naturally, playing at
Don't
his
forget to
place
drink
got pretty
food.
effing boring pretty soon, and I wasn't
I'm trying to
really the
even a
kind of
golden
kid to keep my
chest
mouth
plate.
shut. Eventually, his parents would take out this hidden PlayStation 2 and hook it up to the massive TV in the living room. Great, right? Well, no. We were only allowed to play The Sims 2, and that would have been pretty good fun if his parents wouldn't have been policing us the whole effing time.
Wait, did my
and
shield
made
break?
sure we don't do anything
It did.
unusual.
Oh god, I'm glad to make a new
Basically, we
one.
were allowed to simulate
And
the most
new
mundane
weapons
and
and
boring
armor, because
life
mine stuff is
imaginable.
new
As if being in
broken.
their home wasn't bad enough already. Just thinking back about that whole place gives me the chills. Such a robotic and weird environment. A while ago, I heard from an old friend that the adopted kid dropped out of school and became a junkie. Didn't expect that, but holy F, was I not surprised. Do you know what the kid did as a pastime before you came along? I imagine he was used to that environment, but what else was there for him to do? Sit around neatly and creepily with his parents?
You're gonna have to watch me like stumble around for like, oh, there it is. Anyway, so I made another nether portal. Now with the student I made it as big as I could, but I have perfected nether travel.
I'm all for people living how they want, and if those people wanted to live in a sterile Stepford home, that's all well and good. But if you have a kid and you just kind of refuse to let them be a kid, that seems really unhealthy.
Alright, there we go.
Clearly, the poor guy became a junkie. Repress someone too much, and once they're free, they'll go all out.
Now the whole
Story 5.
reason I did this was to find a good place to mine.
What the F? 12-year-olds don't shower daily. Please like and subscribe if you made
I have a feeling that
the rest of the video and
I have a feeling that the end portal's here, but what do I know?
hang out with a kid whose family not only didn't have a litter box for the cats, but wouldn't pick up the cat crap either. The only reason I went over there was because he had an Atari 2600. I always came home with cat crap on the bottom of my shoes. Doesn't matter, played Atari. My buddy went on 2 dates with a woman he was set up with. This woman lived in a one-bedroom apartment with dozens of rescue cats. I say dozens because my friend could not count them. And by rescue, I mean she rescued them from the street. Apparently a lot were feral and a few had collars already, probably pet cats that she kidnapped. Catnapped? As a result, there were constant cat fights and not the fun kind. You can't just put feral cats indoors with declawed pets. There were litter boxes, but he implied that they didn't do too much good. He has a feeling that she was crazy before she started her collection, but that she got worse because of the weird brain problems that happen when you're exposed to that much cat crap. He said he called and reported her immediately after he left the apartment, but we don't know what came of it. I really want to know what happened to the crazy cat lady. Yeah, if you don't know, being around cat duties can give you toxoplasmosis. I don't know if it actually degrades the minds of humans, though. But the parasite does affect the mind of mice, making them not fear cats. I think it just makes humans really sick, possibly even deadly. Story 7. When I was around 8 to 9 years old, there was a girl in my neighborhood that hardly anyone ever saw outside of school. She was maybe a year younger than me. I tried talking to her a few times, and she was very, very shy. She was never allowed at other kids' houses. Reasonable, I guess.
3D noise name of it, not 360, my bad.
However, no one was allowed over at her house either, not even in her yard or
Whoa,
her
okay.
driveway. This was because, in her words, her parents didn't like kids. Okay. One friend of ours managed to see into her house a few times. Apparently, old furniture was always covered in plastic and everything was dark. We went maybe a month without seeing her outside of school, which was normal. One weekend, a friend and I saw her walking down the sidewalk, and she told us that her father had died. Her mom told her that he started bleeding from the inside after he ate some crayons she didn't clean up, and that it was her fault for not cleaning well enough. She lived in the same house until after high school. She hardly ever spoke when she did. It was just a whisper. She sort of just seemed like a small child a lot of the time, and how she acted and pronounced words. If I weren't just a clueless kid then, I probably would have said something to someone. She blamed her father's death on her. Man, that's effed up. Her dad started bleeding from the inside after he ate some crayons she didn't clean up. This is the most what the F part for me. Was her mom enough of a bee to completely fabricate a story like that, or was her dad flat out dangerously insane? I don't care if her dad was out of it and that eating crayons did kill him. You don't tell your daughter that. There is a line between don't tell someone how to parent their kids and take those kids away from that monster. That mom crossed that line. Story 8. So this isn't nearly as what the F as other stories on this thread, but I always find it really sad that my neighbor's dad sat on his lawnmower from dawn to dusk so he didn't have to deal with his family. Story 9. The parents did lines of coke around the table like it was nothing. I don't know what the hell was going on.
Let me save a screenshot of this, so just in case.
I wasn't allowed over there anymore. I wonder if some parents did this stuff on purpose. Like maybe they just really hated having their dumb kids' friends over, so they do something really conspicuously illegal or weird in hopes that the kid will go home and tell their parents.
Boom.
Then peace and quiet. And cocaine? Story 10. My friend's family never finished their drinks. They always stopped drinking before it was empty. I never understood why, and they would always avoid the question when I asked. The nightmares I had about those effing cups, man. Why the F didn't they just finish their drinks like normal human beings? They should get together with the family that pours their unused drinks back in the container. Unlimited drinks.
Yeah.
Story 11. I noticed that all of the rooms in this kid's house could only be locked from the outside of the room. I thought that only existed in horror movies. I didn't know until I was 17 that the fact that my parents installed a lock on my bedroom that could only be opened from the outside was unusual. That's a serious issue if there were ever to be a fire. I just realized I was given the room at the end of the narrow hallway farthest from any exits. You just realized your parents wanted you dead. Happy Cake Day. I wouldn't quite say that. I don't think the parents wanted their kids
okay, I have no
dead.
wood, so I can't make
The
anything.
were just not very bright in a way that was potentially
But there's a lot of coal here,
not
so
evil, just dumb. Please leave your
yeah,
story in the
there's
comments.
that.
I'd love to make a video on them in the future. Also,
So you know, there's
don't forget to
a
like
upside
and
to this
subscribe.
cave. But I just realized the more deep I go into it, the more I find. And what's just been iron lately?
Story number 1.
Iron and copper, nothing else. I found some gold, and besides the 16 diamonds I found at one time, like last Sunday, that's kind of it. That's all I've ever found. Oh, that redstone. Yeah, I found a lot of redstone also, but I'm not that big with redstone. I'm not good with it, so.
No bills had been paid in 3 months. When I asked her about what happened to all of her money, she said, I went to Waffle House a lot. Second deployment. I came back to a house with 4 dogs and 3 cats. There was the outside garbage can sitting in the middle of the living room. Oh, and a homeless guy was sleeping on my couch. She had taken to volunteering at the local animal shelter and had to save all these animals from being euthanized. The backyard had no grass left for the dogs digging. Carpets were torn up from the feral cats.
I'm gonna go get me my root beer. You know, the only best soda in the universe. Ooh, hits different when it's cold.
At no point did it say that you've divorced this woman, and I find that concerning. Story 2. I have 2. First, I was the witness to one of my soldiers' wedding. It was a typical Joe wedding, and that took place midday at a Wings and Things during the Lucky Bride's lunch break. The mother of the bride owned said Wings and Things, but refused to attend the ceremony despite being at work that day. It was pretty amazing. Second, I was at officer candidate school with an army hot blonde. She was a deployment 9 out of 10, and everybody hit on her. She was drowning in attention, but it was all for naught because she was married to a Green Beret or something. Well, all that attention finally got to her, and she started sleeping with the cadets. It got to the point of her and another married female getting nailed in a hotel room at the same time, and they reportedly high-fived mid-coitus. About 3/4 of the way through the course, she started to put on a little weight, and it sure seemed like her belly was growing faster than the rest of her. About 4 weeks before graduation, it came out that she was, in fact, pregnant with who the knows baby. Not long after graduation, I heard that her marriage to Mr. Special Force did not survive the encounter. Story 3. My brother-in-law was on both sides of shitty cheating stories. He married a woman he chatted with online for a few weeks when he was 19. Then he had to go to Iraq. A month after he left, she told him that he got her pregnant. He comes home after 6 months, then she has the baby. The baby is not his. Fast forward 10 years later. He's married to an awesome chick we all like. She works a job and takes care of everything around the house. He cheats on her with an 18-year-old that worked at Sonic. She catches him and leaves for a weekend to go stay with her sister to figure out what to do. He puts all her stuff in cardboard boxes out under the carport and moves in the new girl. Wow, he really is a piece of shit. Story 4. A buddy of mine I met in ET school had met a younger Mexican girl, fell in love, and wanted to provide a better life for her than he was able to at that time. He had been in the Coast Guard and rejoined, had the first pick of where he was going to be stationed next because he'd already had prior service and had been on the ship for years. The school was about 5 months long. While he was there, his wife decided to join too without telling him. They were from South Texas and he had the choice to be stationed in Galveston, not far from both of their families. But she ends up getting stationed in Oregon on land. The closest place they could get him to where she was stationed was Seattle, also on land. But he obviously wanted to be close to her, so that's where he opted to choose. However, within a couple of weeks of graduation, she also gets transferred to Seattle, so it looks like things might be okay after all. Until the day of graduation when they tell him they have changed his orders and he'll be stationed on a polar icebreaker, which would be leaving the week he gets to his new unit. The ship was set to literally make a trip around the world and he'd be gone for 7 months or so. He finds out while off the southern coast of South America that she has been kicked out of the Coast Guard for drugs and for cheating with a guy she was stationed with. Another long story. He was now working as a stripper in Seattle. Were there red flags before they got married? I'm not sure, but it didn't seem that way before she joined the CG. He was a nice and really good dude. Weird turn of events in such a short time. Story 5. I was in the
I
officer
also
club
found some
around 2012 or so. I walk at least 6 women slutty clad off shorts
called?
versions of flight suits that were bright orange. I was
It's
pretty
not
confused
dungeons.
until my Marine friend told me
Yeah,
that meant their husbands were
no.
deployed and they were looking for
Anyways, what
full-time.
was it called?
Apparently it was an open secret. Well, I was in the Air Force way back in
So
2003 or
now
so.
I have
The guy's wife started hanging out in the
this,
dorms without her husband. I and my buddy avoided her because we
these
figured
two.
it
So I'm
wasn't
going to
going
go
to turn
find me
out
a
okay.
decent
Yeah, turns
enough
out she was
horse.
just running through every guy in the dorm and even had sex with a guy in our shop. I mean that literally. He brought her into the shop and they had sex on one of our workbenches. Again, back in the early 2000s. A guy I...
Uber and Lyft drivers, what's your most NSFW story? Story 1. I don't drive for either of those they'd been partying the night. What's the most frisky thing you've seen someone do in public? Story 1. I was just telling a coworker this story, and it's definitely frisky. I used to work in a gym with a hot tub and a pool, and I was the opening person. For years, we had an issue.
What age did you lose your virginity, and how did it have full responsibility? What is the weirdest thing a babysitter or caretaker has ever done to you?
Redditors who grew up filthy rich, what did you think was normal until you learned otherwise? Story 1. My family was broke as hell, but my mom was and still is a teacher at this really nice private school, which was the only reason my brother and I could attend. Everyone's parents were doctors and lawyers, you get the idea. But my brother and I were being raised by a single mom who had just relocated. We were living in the trailer park in the middle of nowhere for cheap-ass rent. We didn't always know when the next meal was coming. One day during lunch, the kids noticed that all I had was a peanut butter sandwich with a tiny bag of pretzels. One dude says, "Whoa, you must really not be hungry." Since I was 6 and just as clueless about any other lifestyle as he was, I just straight up told him, "We don't have any more food." I had to explain it a couple more times before he realized it. Lunch Bro sheepishly asked if I would like some of his food. That orange and bag of Cheetos were the start of a now 20-year-long friendship. Story 2. I was trying to show a friend of mine that she's rich because her family had a team of maids and drivers. Seriously, a driver for every member of the family. She said she's not rich because everyone has maids and drivers. I asked her, "Do you think your maids and drivers have maids and drivers?" "Yo, dog, I'm so rich even my maids have maids."
Yeah.
Story 3. I was poor growing up, and most of my friends were poor/middle class. There was always this one dude who drove a shitty, falling-apart car. He was always hustling to and from work, trying to make a buck to afford repairs for his car. We all thought he was lucky just to have the car. One night, after we had been friends for a while, he invited a bunch of us over to his house. Even offered to pick us all up since no one else had our own wheels. Imagine our surprise when he rolled up into the ritziest neighborhood in our area. The dude lived in a freaking mansion, indoor pool, elevator, the whole 9 yards. We were flummoxed. Someone said, "Dude, we had no idea you were rich." His answer, "I'm not rich. My parents are. They worked very hard to get that way." At first, we felt bad for him, freaking filthy rich parents, and this dude is working his ass off to afford a beater. Now I get it, though. Just wanted to point out, I grew up in a major East Coast city with a good, though sometimes annoying, public transportation system. Having a car wasn't a necessity by any stretch, but it did make life a bit easier. Having a car at 17 of any sort was definitely impressive in my circle. Story 4. Honestly, it was the little things. I knew we had a nicer car than average and a bigger house, went on more trips, etc. But I thought everyone's fridges had wood-paneled cabinet doors, for example. We had a Sub-Zero built-in fridge and freezer. The first time I saw a metal fridge, I thought it was weird, but I thought it was even weirder that the fridge and freezers were combined. Then I got really jealous because you could put magnets on it. I also thought everyone had a central vacuum system where you could sweep dirt into a little hole under the cabinets by the floor and it sucks it up. We had these little holes all over in every room, stuff like that. Your floors have built-in vacuums? You son of a bitch. Story 5. Kidnapping. Whenever we traveled, there were guards, and I was trained in what to do if it happened. We had insurance policies against it, and when I dated a middle-class suburbanite and then talked about it, she thought I was just being paranoid. But that was a thing. Story 6. I spent my late teens and early 20s butlering for a very, very wealthy, not billionaire, but not far off family. They had 2 school-aged children that I would drop off in the morning. The older of the 2 was amazed to learn that I didn't have a holiday home to go to when I took time off. Story 7. I feel bad having said this while joining a friend on a road trip up into the mountains at his brother's house. There was slow as balls internet at the house we were going to, and the connection dropped off frequently. I didn't have my car with me since I was on a road trip and with someone else at the time. This was also before personal Wi-Fi was a thing, and my cell phone at the time was a state-of-the-art brick phone from Nokia, thus no hotspot. Me. If there's any way I could borrow a car to hop into town for internet tomorrow, that would be awesome. Friend. Well, my brother uses his car every day, and I'm using mine to go to that event we talked about. Me. That's fine. Is it okay if we use his extra car? Awkward silence until... Friend. He just has that one car. Story 8. Growing up, I thought apartment buildings were only for college students. I didn't know that families lived in them. Story 9. I thought until the start of high school that a $100 bottle of wine was cheap. Expensive ones are several thousand after all. At the end of the year, we decided to offer a retirement teacher a bottle of wine, and he said, "Don't buy me a $100 bottle." I made a joke about how picky he was and made a fool of myself. Story 10. Joshua Travolta told a cute story about his daughter once. They had to fly commercially once, and she was shocked, incredulous, and asked, "Daddy, who are all these people on our plane?" She thought everyone had their own 757. Story 11. We never discussed the affordability of things within a family. I thought it was totally taboo. And this isn't to say I got everything I wanted growing up. I was an obsessively frugal kid. But I was never denied something based on, we can't afford that. I was pretty shocked in elementary school when my friend's mom told her they couldn't afford to buy something. I guess in my mind it was impolite for my parents to talk about money issues with kids, and it hadn't yet dawned on me that sometimes that's unavoidable. Getting a lot of responses from people from a range of backgrounds with the same experience, which is interesting. Maybe the point where it gets a bit stranger is when things like affordability weren't even discussed when picking out colleges and living accommodations. Fortunately, I got to go to a great school for pretty much free, but I'm pretty sure they'd have put me through NYU and med school if I'd asked. It was also interesting going apartment shopping with friends that were all still financially dependent on their parents, but were definitely having that "we can't afford that" conversations in ways that just weren't coming up in my family. Story 12. I thought everyone got to eat dinner quite often with the president. I always thought the president has dinner at random houses until I learned otherwise when I joined the regular school.
Oh yeah, no, the president actually ate at my house like last night, bro. Obviously.
I would say rich in the area by comparison. I think
As
the
a
moment
joke.
when it really sunk in was during 5th or
Okay,
6th grade.
but I feel like I have to say it
I
was,
decided
just
I
in
was getting
case.
too cool for little kid parties, so I decided I wanted to go somewhere and do something fun. My parents were super excited about this because it meant I was taking one stupid middle schooler with us on a mini trip instead of having 15 stupid middle schoolers in the house. I decided on a trip to some festival, which meant a ferry ride and then driving to a Canadian city and having a big fancy meal. The girl I picked had been my friend for years. I had no idea her life was so different. She lost her mind on the Mary. It was so fun. She'd never seen Canada before, so we stopped and took her pictures. My parents
Excuse
realized
me.
immediately that this was a huge deal for the girl who brought hers and my souvenirs, which she later gave to her mom since her mom had never left the area. My mom would not let her order the cheapest thing on the menu, which I never realized is something poor kids are trained to do. I thought you could just pick whatever you wanted to eat. She was the first person in her family to travel more than 30 miles from her house. And this was pre-9/11, when a family could just take a random child with no ID and a permission slip from their parent into another country. We're both adults now and occasionally
Wait, you
run
guys
into
can
each
do that?
other. She's married with 4 children and still talks about the time we
Wait, you guys
flew
can't do that?
to Canada. Had she not brought it up, I probably would have forgotten. Story 14.
Once again,
My
it was
8-year-old
a
came home from
joke.
school last year and told me that not everyone has a tennis court. In fact, he said nobody but he had a tennis court in his class. He was amazed that other kids played in the street instead of their own tennis court. The tennis court is old and crappy, but it makes a great play area, paved and with a 10-foot fence around it. I have many kids who have many friends, and it's nice to have a pen to keep them all in during parties. I think the term you're looking for is a prison yard, not a tennis court. Story 15. So growing up, I knew my family and extended family was better off than others once high school came around, but it didn't really sink in until college. My parents immigrated from Iran to the US. I was a little kid. I didn't have anything. My parents had engineering degrees, civil and computer, but my father wasn't allowed to work in our home country because he studied in the West. When we came here, they didn't speak English, so I couldn't work in their profession either. My mom stayed home with my brother and me, and my father worked several jobs. He saved up, along with a little bit of money that was finally unfrozen, and started a small business. It grew very rapidly, but my parents didn't really change their own lifestyle. Since I was too young to really know what money is spent
What's
on
the name
when
of
we
that
were this
business?
poor, it didn't really occur to me that we became rich. I just assumed that this is what everyone in America did, the American dream.
Oh
and
yeah,
that
just
everyone
last
else was
week.
like this. Starts poor
Obviously.
and then can afford all sorts of stuff. It didn't help that my middle school and high school were very
I
split
was going to
between
make a
the rich and
joke,
poor. So
but I
figured the
don't
latter
know
group
if it was going to be.
I always heard college was expensive.
It was a
but only
British
some
joke. It
people
was a
could afford it,
joke about the
or that
British.
their parents had to save up from
Then I
the
realized I
Canada
probably
to get a
shouldn't say
job.
it.
I thought it was $1 million per year. I figured that seemed like something people
Because
could
I
afford.
don't want to
I based
offend
that on thinking that
British
the middle class
viewers
made
of
$1
mine.
million a year. So spending a year's wage on 1 year
I'm
of
pretty sure
college would be
one
unreasonable. I
British
found out that
viewer
the
of mine.
average salary was less
I
than
don't
what I
know.
would
If you
spend
guys
on
British,
partying
tell
on a
me right
weekend in
now.
college. Also,
Because I don't know.
I never
I don't
had
know if
one,
you guys are
and
British or
everyone
not.
else did, so I figured they were all rich. Then one day I found out this girl I was seeing at the end of high school had an allowance of $50 per month, and it blew my mind. To my parents' credit, we immigrated to the States with nothing, and they built a successful business. They also raised us very frugally. My dad still drives a 2001 Jeep Liberty, and my mom a 2003 Ford Expedition. My brother and a few cousins love spending, though. They taught us to be very disciplined and financially savvy. I worked my ass off to get down the roots of being a physician, and on the side I started a business. They made sure they didn't help me financially so I could learn how it was to grow a business.
Did you know if you have someone's first and last name, you could actually find pretty much a lot about them, like what state they live in and stuff, and probably more if you can, but since my name is like very common, you guys would probably not be able to find anything about me.
Story 16. My parents
Since,
paid in
and also
full
plus
time
I'm not
for my
going to give you it's my last
$60,000 year
name, come on
college
now.
tuition. I was always grateful for that, but it wasn't until the post-grad reality of my friends working to pay off their student loan debt while
Then
I
again,
was able
according
to
to
directly
YouTube,
pursue
the
professional goals that I
age
truly realized the advantage I had from my parents' wealth.
of the average viewer of mine is like 20 something to like 30 something, I believe. I'm gonna have to check. Hold on.
17. I lived overseas for a year when I was in high school and attended an international school.
Give me
Though
a
my
sec.
family was decidedly middle class in the US, my dad was being paid several more times to work abroad than he had been at home. I'm fairly certain my family was the least well off in the entire school. None of these kids ever seem to realize how fabulously wealthy they are. A few examples. Several boys from North Korea. I don't know exactly how high up in the political world of the DPRK you
lifetime.
need to be allowed to send your children abroad for an education.
Okay, yeah. According to YouTube Studios, 35.4% of my average viewers are between 25 and 34. 5.1% is 13 to 17. 27.6% is 18 to 24. 19.5% is 35 to 44. And then it just keeps on going down after that.
I attended his birthday party, which was on his
So yeah, that's something actually. That's something.
It wasn't uncommon for my friends to spend 3-day weekends in Bali, the Maldives, or wherever their vacation homes were having to.
That was a photo. Oh crap, there's a new Mr. Beast video. 1,000 blind people see for the first time. Anyways, the channel's dead to me. Can't get any videos for that channel. But this one, I need to download some games for my phone. But I'm going to drop the link for this channel in the comment section of this video. So give me a second. I'm getting the link for it. Copy. No, I need to switch channels. Actually, wait, it would probably just be easier to, there it is. Actually, wait, it would probably just be easier to, there it is. Copy, paste. Copy, paste. Copy, paste. I don't think it's, I don't think I can click on it. I don't think I can click on it. Is there something wrong with my comment section? Display chat, yep. Bottom right. Display chat, yep. Bottom right. Display chat, yep. Bottom right. Okay, for some reason links won't be able to be displayed. I'm going to tone that down, like all the way down. I hate that though. Like links won't be able to be clicked on. What if I put a link in the under like my actual channel? Anyway, main channel. Now I can actually turn this off now. TUBB. S1243. Oh god, I forgot that Tug Shorts was a thing. That was the last short I made. 2021. Wow. Two years ago. Don't subscribe to Tug Shorts. It's dead. But 10 months ago was my last Apex live. Apex sucks anyways. Tubs Mobile. Yes, that's what I'm looking for. Okay, what if I copy paste. Oh.
https://youtube.com/@username50209n.
It works. Okay, now I'm going to turn that all the way down. I'm going to make that the pinned message. So, you know. I think that sucks. Those donations don't work. It's weird. Anyways, now time to switch to video.
Scary science fact that the public knows nothing about. Story 1. The original nuclear bombs leveled the cities they detonated over, yet are considered puny by today's standards. The most powerful nuclear bomb ever created, the Tsar Bomba, had an explosive yield 3,000 times more powerful than the original nuclear bombs, and its power was calculated to be more than 10 times the combined power of every single munition used in World War II. That includes every bullet fired, every grenade thrown, every artillery shell fired, every bomb dropped, and of course, the 2 nuclear bombs dropped. It was detonated 4 kilometers from the ground over the remote Severny Island, yet still destroyed towns within a couple of 100 kilometers of the blast, and broke windows as far away as Copenhagen, Denmark. The shockwave from the blast circled the globe 9 times. The plane that dropped it was given a 50-50 chance of survival, yet the bomb was originally designed to be twice as powerful. Story 2. Amongst the possible ways the universe can end, one is called the Big Chance. All of them are pretty bleak, but I'm singling this one for a reason. It is common knowledge that everything likes to stay in its lowest energy state. A ball falls or rolls down a slope if left on its own. We can derive all of the known physical laws by mathematically following the assumption that everything is lazy as hell, which we physicists like to term the least action principle to conceal that we are dumb. Anyway, the universe is in no way different. The universe likes to stay in the lowest possible energy state, which we call a vacuum. It is in a local minimum. Think of local minimum as a dip on a curvy tabletop in which a ball is sitting. If you shift the ball slightly, it will slide back to that position. But that local minimum may not be a global minimum, i.e. that dip may not be the deepest dip on the tabletop. The ball will be at a lower energy in the deepest dip. However, it cannot move from the current dip on its own, though it is higher than the deepest one, because there is a higher barrier that it cannot overcome. Or can it? There's something in quantum mechanics called quantum tunneling.
Too slow.
That allows a ball to phase through the barrier into the deeper hole. Similar is the case with the universe. We don't know if the current vacuum the universe is in is the true vacuum, i.e. the deepest hole, or it is a false vacuum, one of the shallower holes. There's a high probability that the current vacuum is a false vacuum, and it can start to tunnel into the true vacuum. All it would require is one particle anywhere to decay the lower energy state, and it would create a true vacuum bubble that would then proceed to expand and engulf our universe, destroying everything we know as it is, and creating new laws of physics. All it takes is any one of those around 1,084 particles. That's 1 trillion trillion particles present in the universe to decay at any point in time. The bubble expands at the speed of light, so we will never see it coming. The scary part? It may have already happened and coming toward us. There is absolutely nothing we can do to stop it. Story 3. If your dog swims in the lake after receiving a spot-on flea treatment, it It decimates the invertebrate population. A large dog swimming in 8 Olympic swimming pools worth of water soon after treatment will leach enough neurotoxin to kill 50% of the lake's invertebrate population within 48 hours. I say after, I mean relatively soon after, within, say, a day, to have an effect quite this devastating. The leaching does reduce over the month, but it's still there, and the effect of multiple dogs still allows for a terrible buildup of chemicals. Story 4. I only recently learned that when you get sunburned, the burn isn't because of skin cell damage. UV radiation damages the DNA. Then the skin cells decide to commit suicide and fall off so that the damaged DNA doesn't produce cancer. I'll never be mad at my skin peeling again. Story 5. Brain aneurysms can be completely unpredictable and can happen at any time in your life, no matter how healthy you are. A kid who I went to high school with at the age of 16 just did not wake up one morning, and his cause of death was a brain aneurysm. I lost my husband of 12 years, we were best friends for 20 years, to a sudden brain aneurysm. The last words to me were, "Hun, I feel dizzy," and bam, on the floor, dead. I did CPR for 20 minutes waiting for help to come. Doctor said it was instant. It sucked for me because it was so sudden, but I take solace in the fact that he felt no pain. He hated hospitals and never spent a night in one in his 62 years of life. The most ironic thing, and I live in Mexico, is that it was on the Day of the Dead. Hard for me at the time, but man, if I got to have a choice of what day to go,
that timing.
It'd be something like that. We had a weird sense of humor. Rip Al.
That's timing.
There is a gravitational anomaly in space called the Great
no.
Attractor, which is pulling everything within the Virgo and Hydra Centaurus.
That timing is sad but both funny at the same time.
150 to 250 million light years from the Milky Way, which itself is being pulled towards it too. The scary part is that, relative to us, this anomaly lies within the same plane as our own galaxy, making it very difficult to observe. Essentially, we have almost no concrete idea of what it is. On the flip side of the Great Attractor is the Boötes Void, which I find a bit creepy. Boötes Void, sometimes called the Great Void, is a huge spherical region of space that contains very few galaxies. It's approximately 700 million light years from Earth, and located near the constellation Boötes, which is how it got its name. The supervoid measures 250 million light years in diameter, representing approximately 0.27% of the diameter of the observable universe, which itself is a 93 billion light years across, making it the largest known void
I'm going to die by frostbite.
First, astronomers were only able to find 8 galaxies across the expanse, but further observation
Don't die on me, don't die on me.
60 galaxies. Now, while that might seem like a lot, it would be like stumbling upon only 60 objects across a region larger than the continental United States. That's just in 2 dimensions. According to astronomer Greg Aldering, the scale of the void is such that if the Milky Way had been in the center of the Boötes Void, we wouldn't have known there were other galaxies until 1960s. Looking at the volume of the Boötes Void, it should contain about 10,000 galaxies, when considering that the average distance between galaxies elsewhere in the universe is a few million light years. But the question is, why and how this void came to be? There hasn't been enough time since the universe began for mere gravitational forces to clear out a space of that size. There's a theory that suggests that supervoids are caused by the intermingling of smaller mini-voids, like soap bubbles coming together. But a more, maybe creepier explanation is that the Boötes Void could be the result of an expanding Khorshchev 3-scale civilization. As the colonization bubble expands outward from its home system, the civilization dims each star, and subsequently each galaxy it encounters by blanketing it in a Dyson shell. This might also explain why the void is such a nice spherical shape. All in we're seeing a snapshot of the void 700 million years ago. A lot could have happened in 700 million years that we just cannot see or know due to the inherent speed of light. Sweet dreams, everyone. Story 7. The world is literally running out of sand that is used to manufacture concrete. Most of the world's sand is in its deserts, but usable sand only comes from riverbeds, shores, and lake beds. People are being murdered over sand right now. I'm from the Spruce Pine, NC, and I only mention this because you mentioned sand. Our town is known as the home of the highest purity quartz deposits in the world. Apparently, the quartz deposits out here are mined, and the quartz is turned into silica sand, which is then used to manufacture concrete, glass, ceramics, and other things as well. Our quartz deposit is one of around 3 to 4 deposits in the world. The mining of the deposits has had a serious effect on the mountains surrounding the deposits. Just Google the deposits and you will see what I mean. Also, people who work for the Quartz Corp and Feldspar, the owners of the deposits, are pretty much oblivious to the possible health hazards associated with breathing in silica sand all day. My boyfriend worked for Feldspar for around 6 months. After having to quit, after he started having breathing issues, the people who own these mineral deposits make an incomprehensible amount of money. yet are still so greedy they refuse to offer their employees proper safety equipment, and also are able to bypass many of the environmental protection laws. They also pay the least in property taxes, yet benefit the most from reaping the property. I know I wrote a lot, but I just thought I'd share so that you guys would have an idea of who the people controlling the sand are. Story 8. We don't fully know how general anesthesia works. My usual technical answer is, it scrambles the brain, but that goes away when we turn the anesthesia off. I knew that general anesthesia caused sleeping issues, but the reason is weird. I attended an animal behavior conference a few years ago that included a lady talking about general anesthetics in bees. The bees had a complex time structure and would normally do certain things in certain times of the day. Those given anesthesia had their body clock shifted by the time that they were under. Like that period didn't exist for them. Their whole body clock was paused, completely different from if they had been sleeping. Apparently the same is true for humans. Story 9. Antibiotics have been abused and misused for so long that various bacteria strains have started to get resistance to them. What used to be a treatable infection might soon become deadly because we are unable to treat it with the antibiotics we have today. There is research to try and find other ways to treat antibiotic-resistant bacteria. But until then, please use prescribed antibiotics until they are finished, not until you feel better. If unused, do not flush them down the toilet or put them in the bin. Give it to a pharmacy so they can discard them correctly. And use antibiotics when necessary. Some countries give them willy-nilly while others are more conservative. Story 10. It's fairly easy to clone humans. It's really only ethics that's stopping us. We've had the ability to clone since the 1800s. Sea urchins were the first successful clones. And we've successfully cloned sheep, pigs, and rhesus monkeys since then. And I seem to recall the Chinese were working on mixing human DNA with animal DNA. I seem to recall they had some success, but had to destroy the cells because of said ethics. Story 11. Cancer
Basic
geneticist
cake
here.
using
Most
wheat,
cases of cancer
sugar,
that are
milk,
sequenced
and
generally
eggs.
just denote the prognosis or how long a
This
patient
should
has to
be
live,
easy.
rather than treatment options. People always say, let's cure
Alright,
cancer. However, this simplifies cancer as though it is only one disease. It's far more complicated than that. I studied
I got some
one of the
sugar
largest
cane so I
cancer
can use the
hospitals in the world,
sugar.
where the motto is to make cancer
I
history.
don't think I
But
have
the only
any
attainable goal is to make it chronic. We
buckets.
study and research as much as possible, but every cancer requires different
So
research. And unfortunately, the powers that be often
where's
prohibit
my
funding
iron?
proficient research. It's work I'm
Shit,
passionate
you don't need
about,
some
but
more
also a broken
armor
system that
anyways,
is infuriating to work in. Story 12. In
actually I
the
have
UK,
armor.
about 17% of people have fetal alcohol syndrome, McGuire et al. 1992. As much as 17%
And
of
I
us are
have
developmentally
wheat.
disabled simply because, prior to the late 90s, a large proportion of British mothers drank during pregnancy, 41%. Thankfully, the prevalence rate has been falling fast since the late 90s, and all this research was published. But it's terrifying to see how
So
much
all
of an
I
effect
need are
AFSD is
the
having on society.
eggs, and I
Story
need to
13.
find a cow I can
Soil
milk.
science adjacent researcher here. We are degrading, polluting, and losing our topsoil at such a rate that we may not be able to produce enough food to feed everyone within 50 to 60 years, let alone what impacts climate change may bring to bear on our food supply. And the U.S. government's crop insurance programs and incentives all reinforce the bad practices, while discouraging regenerative practices. These bad policies are extremely hard to change because of lobbying from the major agribusiness companies who make money off of these short-sighted policies. Our food supply is further threatened by our agricultural overdependence on aquifer water, which is not being replenished, making it an unsustainable source of water. If the aquifers are overdrawn, depleted, or polluted, we hit a hard wall of water scarcity, and we will have no backups to address the problem with. The drawdown of the aquifers also
The
causes
eggs
land
are going to be
subsidence,
the
which
hardest
causes
thing
costly
to get
infrastructure and
since
building
there's
damage.
no
The
chickens
general
that
public
have
does not
laid
realize the
eggs.
impending crisis
And
that will
no
be
luck
caused
in
by
this
the
road yet,
confluence of these
so.
factors. Story 14.
But I feel like the milk we can
Smallpox
just
is
find
really easy to
any
bring back. It
cow.
will kill 1/5 of the planet when it happens. Take some genocidal anger, knowledge tens of thousands have, and about $100,000. Here are all the ways it could happen. Number 1. U.S. or Russian stocks leaked or used as a bioweapon. We keep some intentionally, it's very secure. This is unlikely in my humble opinion. Number 2. Accidentally bumped into an old lab and leaked during cleaning or something. Forgotten stocks are still occasionally found. Leak spreading is very unlikely in my humble opinion. Number 3. Intentional release via recreation. If someone resynthesizes it from scratch via public sequence according to this paper, with about 100,000 in materials. Methods plus difficulty identical to what is published here. It's totally possible and almost simple to do.
They
Smallpox powder
never,
dropped in
I don't think
envelopes
they
mailed
ever
around the
changed
world
the
by a
sound for
disgruntled
drinking
underpaid
milk.
PhD student See Aurora, Colorado
Okay,
shooter.
found a chicken.
An
I
outbreak is out
need
of hand
an
before it's
egg.
noticed, and billions die.
Come on.
Story
Lay
15.
one.
There's a solar event
Do
known as
it.
CME,
Come
or
on.
a coronal
Lay an
mass
egg.
ejection. It occurs very
Please.
frequently on a
Oh.
cosmic timescale.
I did not
Every
mean
few
to kill
decades
it.
to centuries, there's a decent-sized one. Why are they scary? A CME is a massive burst of radiation, easily able to fully envelop the Earth in its path, and it's equivalent of a non-stop EMP barrage. The last time a big one hit the Earth was when we had telegraph lines for communications and they spontaneously caught fire. In today's world, with everything running on electricity, when the next big one hits, we'll have at most a few days warning. And it'd be a literal apocalypse movie scenario, with planes going down due to their whole electrical system frying, nobody's vehicle starting, untold billions in fire damage would wreak havoc everywhere, and the machines we depend on to help would be similarly fried. Some stuff would be unaffected, being parked in deep concrete-roofed parking garages and the like, but our entire infrastructure would be useless for years. It would literally send us into a mini dark age while people tried to get things working again. Recovery would take decades to centuries. Story 16.
Come on. Lay an
I haven't
egg.
seen this one yet.
I
Insects
know
are
you can
going
do it.
extinct.
Come
We have
on.
lost a significant chunk just since the 80s. I think it was around 20%. Mosies are going up because of course, but just about everything else is going. It wasn't until I read this that I realized that as a kid in the 90s, I used to see butterflies all the time, dragonflies. My house used to get invaded by Christmas beetles every year. Not so much. These days I might see only 1 or 2 Christmas beetles in December, if any at all. When I was a kid, I remember finding 8 in my house in a single night. Same house. Story 17. Here are a few scary medical science facts regarding CPR that you won't often hear in your first aid or CPR class put on in school. I only learned this stuff after schooling to become an EMT.
Like I said, I was giving myself some
What's the
stuff
success
in
rate
like
of
different
CPR?
world.
The average person assumes 75% or greater. In reality, it's barely 10%. It's one of the first things they told us
If
in
in front of
training
it,
because
let's just
all new
give me
people have way too high of an expectation of the
67.
effectiveness of CPR. It can be very depressing when you're doing everything you're trained for and aren't getting the results you
Oh
think
my
you
god,
should
I
get.
forgot that eggs can
The
only
time
stack
for
up to
collapse to the administration
16.
of a shock via AED is absolutely paramount. They say the chances of survival drop 10% per minute. Oh, and rescue breaths. If you're not being very, and I mean very careful, you'll cause gastric dissension. You'll literally be blowing up their stomach. They will vomit. And there are the cracks and crackles. If done right, it'll sound and feel like you're breaking every rib in little old lady Nelson's chest. You're likely not. It's cartilage and other bits shifting. Although, if you're a bit too vigorous, you may very well break a rib or two. But hey, they're already dead, so it doesn't matter. They'd rather be alive with a broken rib than dead. Story 18. Application security engineer here. I know that cybersecurity is not the science most people were probably hoping for, but I have some fun facts about your data. For starters, Facebook builds shadow profiles of people, so even if you don't have a Facebook, you do. Facebook collects your data from many
Ah, yeah,
sites you
thanks.
visit. If you see a like or share button on Facebook, they're collecting the data and adding it to the shadow profile. They basically stalk you. From seeing how long you're on a web page to what you click. This is usually used for advertising purposes, but was also used for nefarious purposes, as seen with Cambridge Analytica. Secondly, in many countries, namely the USA, your data is for sale. From voter records
Oh yeah,
to your
thanks
address,
Google
the people
and
you live with.
Samsung
Each
and
US state has
Apple.
its
I
own
don't know
laws
why I
about
said
selling voter data. For
Samsung, but
example, North
Sony. I
Carolina
know
allows
Sony,
you
you're
to download
spying on
all
me.
the voter data for free. The voter
Google,
data
I know you're
included
spying
are
on me,
full name,
definitely.
address, voter ID,
Because, you know, why
phone
not?
number,
And I need
race
another
or ethnicity,
bucket.
gender, where you were born, when you were born, county, age, driver's license number, and more. We wanted to see how accurate this could be, and used Florida voter data to check my stepfather's information. It gave us his current address, voter ID, full name, phone number, and what party he voted for in 2020. It was also
Jokes on you, I
all
can't vote.
Third, with breaches like the one we saw with Facebook, people can cross-reference your information and find
That's
you
not a
easily.
joke.
If you think about it,
Either way,
this could
like
lead to
I
extreme
can't,
terrorism
I
for
really
people who
can't.
don't agree with you politically, which is pretty scary. Finally, if you toss in a website like White Pages, they can cross-reference this information to find friends, family, previous numbers, addresses, and sometimes emails of you and your loved ones.
What?
All this information is protected only by a paywall. If they really want to get into the open source intelligence of
Okay,
this,
I
they can
made
look for
a
breaches of your
cake.
email or number in database dumps on sites like thehash.com.
So why
Even
didn't
potentially
give
take a
me the
rare console.
achievement?
Some breaches might even include
Though
hacking
I
data
bake a
or straight up
cake
leaks your
using
social security
wheat,
number. Story 19.
sugar,
The doomsday clock is a hypothetical
milk,
clock
and
in which
eggs.
12 a.m. or midnight is
I baked a cake using wheat, milk, sugar, and egg.
Scientists operate the clock and change the time based in the current environment. During times of uncertainty,
There is no way that's the cake eating noise.
time would be set closer to midnight. The supposedly calmest time in the past few decades was in
So why did it not give me the achievement? I did the achievement.
Number 1, 1949. Soviets' first nuclear test.
Are we still alive? Yeah, I'm still alive.
1953.
I don't know if you guys could see this.
2 minutes. 3, 1984. U.S.-Soviet relations reaches their lowest point, and when our species was arguably closest to nuclear eradication. 3 reaches their lowest point, and when our
If you guys
species
can't,
was
it's still
arguably
full screen
closest
for
to
you guys.
nuclear eradication. 3 reaches their lowest point, and when our
If you guys
species
can't,
was
it's still
arguably
full screen
closest
for
to
you
nuclear
guys.
eradication.
But for me, it's not.
Reaches
Okay, the video is over.
What's the juiciest
Now
rumor in
this
your
the
school
video
that
that
turned
I've
out to
played.
be 100% true? Story number 1. We had a Spanish teacher who would keep giving random financial or business advice during classes. One day he tabbed over to his stock trading homepage and accidentally revealed that he was a millionaire. Rumors about his past started circulating. Around graduation, some students found old newspaper articles confirming that he was a former meth dealer who had spent time in jail. Was a seriously cool guy, actually.
View details.
The art teacher was sleeping with both the history teacher and the RE teacher. She was married to the chemistry teacher, who she previously had an affair while married to the woodwork teacher. I believe she married the RE teacher sometime after I left school. Edit. A few people have asked what RE is. Religious education, which state schools in the UK used to have to teach. Taught by an atheist, which was refreshing. This is better than a Mexican soap opera. Story 3.
And you go plug my phone up.
Being the male history teacher in his office. Both were married. Edit. Principal. Sorry. Their husbands must have been furious. Story 4. Rumor had it that a teacher was having sex with some of his students that wanted higher grades. No one believed it to be true because he was married and just had his third baby. 100% true. And all the students were proud of it. He's still in jail 5 years later. Students were proud of it? I fucked a teacher for my B+. Story 5. When I was in middle school, the big joke rumor was that 2 teachers were banging. Years later, everyone finds out that not only were they having an affair outside their respective marriages, but that the male teacher was cheating on both women with a man. The female teacher moved away and ended her own life. The entire situation was unbelievably messy. Story 6. The wood deck teacher was married to the French
I don't feel like getting up to change this video, but my channel is PG-13. Not PG. Rated E for everyone. Not PG-13. My bad. But I'm trying to make my videos for everyone. You know, of all ages, which is why I usually play more family-friendly games like Minecraft and Fortnite. The games like Call of Duty or Apex Legends, which is trash.
Sometimes I would see them come back and sometimes I wouldn't. I jokingly pointed it out to people before anyone else caught on. Later, they became a couple that was known to students. Story 7. We had a running joke around my school for years. If someone asked, could you, insert questionnaire, most people would reply, I'll do it for a bag of Doritos. This was a school-wide inside joke because some authority figures had the bright idea of asking why the horny teen would allow this. He said, she said she would do it for $3 in a bag of Doritos. No one ever saw the girl again, but the guy became a legend. Well, you could say she jacked up her prices since then. Story 8. My 6th grade math teacher was super creepy. He would assign seats randomly, but always place the girls in front of the classroom. Did the whole lingering stare thing and was always trying to get people to hang out with him during lunch. I never did. But he was married and had a baby, so no one really suspected him of anything other than being creepy. Fast forward about 7 years. The teacher ended up being a sex offender. He had an ongoing relationship with a girl that began when she was 13. Based on what I could see from the various news articles, she was either in my year or the year before me. The police came to arrest him in the middle of his class, cuffed him in front of his students, then had him walk throughout the campus in cuffs to get to their car. I don't feel bad for him at all, but I can't imagine how his wife and son must feel. Story 9. The resource officer was a child molester and then murdered his wife after he was fired. fled. They still haven't found him over 10 years later. He's on Marshall's top 15 most wanted list. His name was Dan Hires, and his mother thinks he's dead. The computer tech teacher got caught having sex with a student. He was put on suspension while the investigation was conducted. He killed himself by running his car into a tree. Story 10. One kid who was in my history class jacked off in a giant communal pump, both of French dressing the upperclassmen all used. Was heard bragging about it in class, but nobody believed him until he got back to a teacher, and they tested the dressing, and lo and behold, jizz was present. Lots of scarred teenagers and lots of amused ones. Story 11. Probably not the juiciest thing, but the one I remember because of how I found out. High school library's walls were
Okay, that's another ender poll. I'm trying to get ready for the end. I know. I know.
Word was, students were fucking in there. Had to move the shelves and clean the tunnels. Found used condoms. It was an all-boys school at the time, if that matters. Mind, the condoms weren't the worst thing, really. The leftover food debris in there was worse. Stuff like chicken bones. Edit. A couple of years later, I was talking with an ex-schoolmate. Another guy from our graduating class comes in. I hate that guy, my friend says. Dude, you're gay. Well, there's gay and there's so fucking gay, other gay people think you're too fucking gay. Turns out that gent had been one of the entrepreneurial fellows of the services for a few years.
Hey Siri,
Since I already...
play next video.
Bartenders of Reddit. What is the smoothest pickup line you've ever heard? Story 1. Not a pickup line, but the smoothest thing I've seen from...
Here's my that to walk.
This guy was hitting on this girl at the end of the bar. She asked him, "You gonna bring me some roses?" And this man took 2 straws, a napkin, and a lighter, and I shit you not, made a rose with it. You bet your ass you left with him. Kudos, sir. Like a drunk MacGyver. Story 2. Bartender in college. Guy walked up to a girl at the bar and goes, "Hi, my name is Ben, and I'm going to buy you drinks until you find me attractive." The girl smiled and laughed, and he asked what she would like to drink. She looked him over. He was already very attractive. Turned to me and said, "In that case, I'll have a water." You definitely got it, Ben.
Oh, wow.
Ben, line seemed to be working, huh? Story 3. I work at a bar in Long Beach, New York. Male. A female customer was giving me advice on how to tip my bartender coworker. Female. A close friend of mine. She kept feeding me adorable things to say to my friend because she thought we were close. I thanked her and took one step toward my friend and turned back to her and repeated it all back. She took the bait and landed me back in her place. Smooth. Story 4. I'm not a bartender, but I saw this happen at a bar.
Oh, you have to be kidding me.
One girl and one guy. Some guy I've never seen before comes over. Places 3 beers, one in front of each of us.
Now, I kind of just want to mess with ender polls real quick, so give me a sec. I know this isn't something that that you guys will probably never think would have happened, but I want to mess with ender polls real quick. Give me a sec. I don't want to waste any of my world, so.
Letting them try some of the new cocktails and shots our buyers trialing. We give them one particular shot, and the friend says she doesn't like it too much, and asks if it is the kind of drink my girlfriend likes. I was single. Shy girl picks up her shot, downs it, and says, "Yes, it is." Then immediately runs out of the building in shyness. We've been dating for almost 6 months now. Story 6. Bartender here. The best pickup I've ever seen was when a group of 3 dudes, college-aged, were at the bar on my end. They started talking about this girl on the other side who's clearly the hottest in the bar. One of them jokingly said to another, "If you can get her number without saying a word to her, I'll buy you drinks the rest of the night." The kid who was there waved me down and asked for a pen and napkin. Walked over, and within 10 minutes, came back over, girl in hand, asking his buddy, who bet him for 2 patron shots. I asked him what he did and showed me the napkin with her number. He played hangman on the napkin and spelled out, "Can I have your number?" And it actually worked. He and his girl were drinking heavily and for free the rest of the night. He also walked out with her, so I hope he scored. Story 7. Saw a dude standing at the bar waiting to order drinks when it was his round, and a Britney Spears song comes on. He just happily sings along and wriggles his hips, waiting to order drinks. Wasn't showing off or trying to be funny, just happily doing his thing. The chick next to him was staring the whole time, laughing, and when he noticed, he just smiled and nodded, and went right back to it. She took the bait, and that was it. Story 8. There was a new bartender who had just started at the local ale house. Just an absolutely stunning girl. When I ordered, she kinda asked for my ID. One of the other bartenders waved her off, and the interaction unfolded like so. Oh, he's a regular. You don't need to card him. New girl. Oh, I would just feel better if I did. Me. It's cool if you want to know my address. It's not far from here. Cue the blushing. 10 out of 10, smoothest I've ever been. Story 9. I've been bartending for about 2 years, and I've had my fair share of guys trying to pick up lines on me. Fine by me. I'm not interested in guys anyway, and it gives me a laugh. But the one and only guy I've ever taken a number from had done something similar to this. He was just generally funny all night and said something about a suggestions box, so I gave him a piece of paper and a pen as a joke, telling him to write it down. He left pretty early, then gave me his suggestion on the way out. Opened it up and it said something like, I suggest you call me. Name, XOXO, number. Not gonna lie,
Oh, wow, that's smooth.
Right amount of smooth. Ended up texting him goodnight, princess. Nothing ever came out of it, but he did a pretty good job. It did meet my current girlfriend while working, though. No lame pickup lines, just a couple of friends yelling at me over the bar. We found you a girlfriend. They were right. Thanks, guys. Story 10. Male. Not the smoothest line ever, but the best one I used on me. I work in a bar or restaurant in San Francisco, and these 2 Australian girls came in. One had a boyfriend and
Australian.
she said, I plan on getting so
That's
drunk
my,
that I get carried
that's
home
Australian.
tonight.
Wait, hold on. Let me try again. Australian? Nah, I can't do it. Let it burn, let it burn. Also, wow.
One left a few extra bucks after already having tipped me on a napkin with his number saying, from the cute one. Then I noticed one of the other guys left a $20 tip with his number.
I want to see if I can set up gas on file. Okay, no you can't. Myth busted.
Story 12.
What happens if I throw a indoor eye heal? Oh wow, you can't.
Would you like to see her photo? She said, yeah, sure. So I put my phone into camera mode with the front camera on and gave her the phone. She looked at it and saw herself and let out a chuckle as she blushed. Story 13. I handed a cute customer 2 pints of beer. He fumbled and inevitably dropped one, spilling it all over me. Looked at me with his cutest smile and said, if I pretend I did that on purpose so I could use the let's get you out of those wet things line, would you laugh or throw me out? I laughed, and he spent the rest of the evening being sent to the bar by his friends to buy every single round so that he could flirt more. We went on a date a week later, and we were together for nearly 4 years. Story 14. Late response, but a guy sat next to a woman at the bar. She was obviously not interested. Then he said, I may not be the best looking guy here, but I'm the only one talking to you. You should try lowering your standards. I just did. She threw her drink in his face and slapped him. I always keep your mouth open and insulting a woman.
Oh god, that's funny. Yeah, what you gonna do about it? What either you gonna do about it?
I'm the bartender in this situation. The guy buys a drink for himself and the girl next to him.
Wow.
The girl looks at me dead in the eyes and says, I was just telling him how you look like you probably have a really nice dick. I literally didn't know how to react. And as I'm standing there, he was like, tell him I'm serious. He just nods, clearly not knowing how to react either. By confirming that she had, in fact, and told him that I looked like I probably had a nice dick.
Wow.
Around my corner for the club until closed.
You know, I should probably find more of these. I should probably find these in my survival worlds.
Have a good night. It was so direct into the
But they could be literally anywhere.
So I did, and we've met a couple more times since. Story 16. Not myself, but my bartender's relief. One night her friends come in with this guy and they get introduced, but not in the, hey, this is blah blah, and try to hook him up way. I guess they were just out with him. Anyways, they all close down the bar, as her friends normally do, and they start to leave while she cleans up the bar. She sees he left his phone, so she runs out and gives it to him. Fast forward a few weeks and they come in and the same thing happens. Well, apparently he does it a third time and she goes out and says something like, why do you keep forgetting your phone? And he said something along the lines of, well, this is really the only alone time I get with you. A few dates and about a year later, they're happily married. Story 17. It's not a pickup line, but when I was working as a bartender, I witnessed something pretty epic and hilarious. A good mate of mine was at the bar, and he's a pretty stingy guy, so he doesn't spend too much when out in the town, and usually doesn't get this drunk. So yeah, my mate's been at the bar all night, chatting to friends and other random patrons, with this total babe is sitting on the other side of the bar from him that's been eyeing him all night. I have no idea if he's ever aware of her or not. So she's been sitting there for ages, sort of waiting for something to happen, just sipping on her lolly drink. No dudes have bothered to approach her or anything so far. This keeps up for a bit, and then this buff, scary-looking guy comes to the bar, totally wasted, and asks me for a beer. He asks me quietly what the hot lady's been drinking, and tells me to get her another one. He pays up and frowns at her and cracks a sly grin. She walks up to him and they start chatting. And 2 minutes later, they leave together.
Wow. Wow.
Story 18. Saw an extremely drunk girl hanging out at the bar once. By hanging out, I mean she was leaning against the bar just to barely stay up. That's when a drunk guy stumbles into her. I'd say that's where their eyes met and they discovered true love.
Okay.
But it's hard to say since they both had their eyes barely open and glossed over by slight alcohol poisoning. They both then grunted into each other's general direction and proceeded to make out or eat each other's faces off. Can't really tell. Story 19. Warning. Me back when I had no shame.
Crap.
I was 25 and at a notorious cougar hangout. A woman walks up next to me at the bar wearing a flashing 50 badge. I looked at her hand and there was a faded tan line where the ring had been. I'd seen her and her friends earlier and there were only a few left. I checked her out properly and she was a stunning 50. So I said, "Excuse me, can I get you a man half your age for your birthday?" She just looked at me and I said, "I'll be waiting out front." I wasn't waiting long. Story 20. Not exactly a pickup line, but a really clever or cool way a girl let me know she was interested. We noticed her on the opposite side of the bar and we smiled at each other. I was newly single, she was on a date and obviously bored. Still, she was on the date, and I'm not going to interrupt and be that kind of a douchebag. After a few minutes, I walked around to her side of the bar to head to the bathroom. She stopped me and said, "Here, your pocket square's messed up." She fumbled with it a sec and said, "All good," and I moved on to the restroom. I got home later and took my blazer off, noticed something was off with the pocket square. She had stealth stashed a napkin with her name and number. I texted that night when we went out later that week. 11 out of 10 was impressed with the smoothness. Story 21. I bartended in college. My buddies came to visit during a UFC fight. One of them, after a few Crown and Sprites, walks up to a very attractive woman, definitely not a student, and asks, "If you were a pirate, would you put a parrot on this shoulder?" Pointing at her shoulder closest to him. "Or this shoulder?" Reaching his arm around her to the other shoulder. They left together right after that. Quick fact. I stole that line and used it on my now wife. Story 22. I stopped a girl walking by me at a pool hall once, pulled a coin out of my pocket and said, "Heads you stay, tails you go." It landed on tails. I said, "Go on then." She was appalled as she walked off. The night goes on, the bar closes, we're on the parking lot following our DDs. The girl stops me, pulls out a coin and says the same thing. It lands on heads. I looked at my friends and was like, "Gotta go." My buddies literally picked me up off the ground and threw me in the car. Come to find out she was not attractive in the slightest, and I was too piss-hammered drunk to tell the difference. Your friends are bros. Story 23. I've been bartending for almost 4 years, and I have yet to hear any actual smooth pickup lines. Sober dudes usually offer to buy a woman at the bar a drink. Drunk people are often happy to slobber on the first person who lets them. Dudes who think they're being smooth and hitting on the bartender are super predictable. Most of the time they order a drink and you, or something similar, like responding to, "What can I get you?" with your number. 100% chance of making me uncomfortable and getting yourself pushed back in the queue when you come back up to the bar because I'm uncomfortable talking to you. You put me in a position where I don't want to fake laugh or play along because you'll get the wrong idea. Most guys have some stupid remark if I say I'm spoken for, which makes things even more uncomfortable. And I can't be rude or anything because I'm working. Being friendly is part of the job. The second most common approach is just straight up asking me if I'm single, which I guess is fair because I can say no and we'll move on to the ordering of drinks and forget about it. Don't bloody harp on about it. Some people will strike up a conversation about something if it's not too busy, like music, what do you do when you're not working here, etc. And that's fine. I like chatting with people, but a casual, friendly conversation isn't the same as flirting. Last weekend, I ended up alone, watching the door while my boss and bouncer was handling some things and this group of people left. But one guy stayed behind to talk to me. He started with, "So, I clocked you at the bar earlier." It was beyond awkward. You let your friends leave without you because I made eye contact with you? The only pickup line I've walked into by accident was one of the stupidly obvious ones. The guy standing at the bar ordering drinks, blah blah, and as I passed them over, I comment that I like his shirt. It's one of those button-up ones with really detailed roses on them. But somehow it wasn't tacky. He thanks me and tells me to touch the collar. All like, "Guess what it's made of?" So my dumbass touches the fabric and guesses, cotton? No. The answer was boyfriend material. God damn it. I put myself in the news for that one. Story 24. Super late to the party, but this one I can answer. And it just happened a few weeks ago. A cocktail at a bowling alley. A group of high school kids was bowling one night. A bunch of them had a class of 2017 shirts or hoodies on. I got off work and walked to the front desk to clock off. One of the boys from that group walks up behind me with a bowling ball in each hand and asks if I can do him a favor. I was caught off off guard and it was a little random, but I was like, sure. So he motions with one bowling ball hand to his hoodie pocket and asks me to grab his phone out for him. I'm a little skeptical, but I reach in with my pointer and thumb and grab it and set it on the counter for him and continue to clock out. But then the kid says, wait, can you unlock it for me? So I do. Then he asks me to go to the phone, dial, actually. Will you go to the contacts? No, just put in your number for me. I feel so terrible. I'm pretty sure I humiliated the poor kid, but I apologized and told him that I'm married. He was a cute boy. 10 years ago when I was just getting out of high school, that would totally have worked on me. Story 25. Not a bartender, but I used to have success doing what I will now call the afterthought. I would stand next to the girl I wanted to talk to, order my drink, often multiple drinks for other people.
A bird just flew by my window.
Give a half-head turn to said girl. You know what? Give her whatever she wants to. As if it was a mindless afterthought. If she accepted, then I would talk to her, jaded or chummy as if she'd been my friend for years. Strange, but it works. Here's the tricky part. When it was time to go to our separate ways after getting drinks, I would casually say, tell me your number. But the trick is to lean in with one ear. I would never pull out my phone. I always thought the woman would be embarrassed and not want to telegraph the entire club that she was giving out her number. I always lean in with one ear because 90% of the time, the girl in question will say, you're not going to write it down? Or, you'll remember it. At that point, I nonchalantly say, I won't forget it, promise. I think that always made it seem unique and organic instead of the usual pickup stuff. Of course, after getting my drink, or drinks, I hightailed it to the bathroom so I could put the number in my phone after repeating the number to myself in my brain like I'm Rain Man. Story 26. Not a bartender, but I'll use one that just came out of the blue for me. Coming home one night at about 1:30 a.m., I decided I want one more beer and go to the infamous Cougar Bar, which is literally right behind my condo. I live downtown Toronto. If you live here, you know which one without a doubt. Have a beer and just people watch. Two girls that are about 30 are being hit on by a dude who's no younger than 45 on the dance floor. Neither are all that impressed, and he's pushing hard to try and make a move on them. I say, what the hell, and walk over. I literally pick the one girl's hand out of his, saying, sorry love, the line for the bathroom is super long, and the one for the only stall was even longer. I winked at her. She laughed, and the dude moved to her friend. I just turned and said, they're both with me, and grabbed her friend's hand. It answered them for about a minute until the older guy f***ed off, then just said, have a good night, you owe me, and walked away. About 10 minutes later, the bar closes down, I'm out front having a smoke, and they come up to me. Do you know of an after hours where we can get a drink? I noted they were from out of town, clearly, and after a bit of back and forth said, I live literally right there. You're both welcome back for a glass of wine. We did. We laughed. We told stories. They laughed as the bottle ran out and added one another to Facebook, kept in contact with one of them, and we turned into one of the most honest and true friends with benefits I've ever known of. She lived about 1.5 hours away, but we got together about once a month. Had a ton of fun going out as friends each time. Fucked the shit out of one another before going to bed, then she'd leave the next day after breakfast. After about 1.5 years of that, she met a dude and I shot her a text along the lines of, next weekend, park and beers? She replied, for sure, but now I just met someone I want to pursue. Are you happy? And does he treat you well? Yes, so much. I'm happy for you. Amazing. So, park and beers next weekend? I began dating someone a few weeks later. We have been some of the closest friends since. We still see one another about once every month or so. She now works in the city, she's engaged to that same dude, and things are going excellent. He's perfect for her, and he helped me move about 8 months ago. He knows about her past, and the only thing he's ever said about it was, thanks for treating her well. I see that girl as one of my best friends, and it's by far the best pickup line and the best person I've ever picked up in a bar.
Hey Siri, play the next video.
Moms of Reddit, what do you know about your child that you will never tell to him or her? Story number 1.
Hey Siri,
I have a daughter in college.
play next video.
What's a secret you won't share with anyone in person, but you're willing to share anonymously? Content warning, talk of assault, bar, and
Hey Siri,
termination discussion. Story 1. I own
Hey
a
Siri,
5-foot-tall
play next video.
intercourse doll while living with 2 grandmas and
But what the heck? Hey Siri.
It's interesting ordering the doll and getting this
Hey
big
Siri.
box weighing 80 pounds into the house with no one noticing. I sat outside waiting for UPS to arrive.
Hey Siri,
So no doorbell.
play next video.
What have you caught your babysitter doing? This was my equivalent of pre-K. kids were regressing in their movement ability and getting really fat, so they set up spy equipment. Turns out one carer was doubling every baby's food portions and forcefully overfeeding them. Wish I had a nanny cam. My stepsister was watching my brother with disabilities for me. She would dump out the contents of his capsule meds and use them later. Didn't find out about it till he started having seizures constantly and ended up in the hospital for the second time. This isn't a bad one. My parents caught the babysitter carrying our 60-pound golden retriever like he was a baby. We caught our maintenance guy spooning with our 130-pound mastiff on the floor. We encourage their love as best as we can now. I've been a pretty regular weekend nanny for an amazing family for 4 years now. They've cycled through a couple different weekday nannies since I've been with them. There's only one monitor, and it's in the little dude's room. Once the mom showed me on the camera why they let one go. Little dude said, "Mommy said I don't have to do that." And the nanny snapped back, "Well, it doesn't matter. Mommy is a witch." And then dragged the kid out of the room by his shirt. Super fired. For your information, they only showed you footage from the decoy camera. Not a nanny cam, because this happened in the 90s, and I don't think we had them in Scotland then. But my mom came home early one day because she had become suspicious of our nanny, as my sister and I never slept after a day with her. She found both my sister and I in bed in the middle of the day. Turned out my nanny had been dosing us up with child medicine to make us sleep all day so she could sit and do nothing. This happened at my friend's child's daycare center. They were giving them Benadryl or something, pill form, and the kids were sleeping all day. My friend had chosen a daycare rather than a babysitter because she thought it'd be safer. My mom put a nanny cam on my sister's bedroom. The only disturbing thing my mom allegedly saw was the babysitter crying while holding my sister. Turns out the babysitter just had a miscarriage the day before. Oof, that'll rip your heart out. Well, the case which happened near where I live. Woman used to work, husband out of country. Had a 2-year-old kid. They hired a nanny to look after him during daytime. Day by day, kids started looking malnourished, so she set up a spy cam. Apparently, the lady used to bring her kid and feed him all the food left for the kid she was supposed to be babysitting. Then she would feed the kid cheap biscuits. She was promptly handed over to the police. That happened to my uncle. The babysitter was stealing formula for her own child and giving him watered-down formula. My uncle got sicker and sicker. They fired the babysitter, but he eventually died. I have a camera to check in on my rabbit when I'm not there. The biggest surprises were mostly just how almost nobody followed my pet sitting instructions. The one exception, ironically, was my brother, who claimed to hate the rabbit and always wanted to get rid of it. I got an alert one day that my camera had detected movement while my bro was there taking care of him, and I decided to take a peek. I opened the app connected to the camera and saw my bro walk into my room, lay on the floor, and start playing with my rabbit. It just warmed my heart. First rule of siblings: never show your siblings that you love them or their pets. A friend caught his nanny hitting their kid for interrupting that day's binge of the TV show Friends. Hope the cops were called. Not me, but my aunt's friend set up a nanny cam because she noticed that every time she changed her child's diaper, the child would start crying a lot more than usual. Turns out, when they watched the nanny change her diaper, she would use Clorox wipes if they were nearby, instead of grabbing the baby wipes. What the frick? My mom suspected our maid of stealing the silverware, and she's just really nosy. Anyway, the maid was indeed stealing the silverware. I think that was overshadowed, though, by my dad messing around with her. If watching adult videos has taught me anything, your dad was just punishing her for stealing. I travel the U.S. for work, and am fortunate enough to be able to bring my 2 beagles with me. They've never been away from my side longer than the time I've been at home. They're 10 and 13. I have a camera that I use to check in on them sometimes, mostly because my larger beagle is quite the ingenious guy, opening doors, scooting chairs over places so he can jump up onto the counters, etc., etc. Last year I was in Oregon and had to go home to Michigan for an emergency. I do not fly with them. I will only drive. So I was in a pickle and reluctantly hired someone off of Rover that was willing to come stay over at my hotel room for 3 days. She was great, kept up on texting me about the dogs, said things like tossing them a ball right now, so I would check in via the cam when I thought it was appropriate. This woman was amazing. Not only was she playing with them enough to make them exhausted, she was even teaching them new tricks, making them use their brains to solve puzzles, and even got my 42-pound beagle to get up on her back so that she could do push-ups. She was an avid CrossFitter. I was extremely happy. What the F? This is wholesome. Something isn't right here. We once caught the nanny putting charcoal to feed them as a snack. This woman claimed that she thought it was a snack. It was in a charcoal box. My brothers were 4. Babies can have a little charcoal as a snack. My family bought one to see our dogs when we leave on vacation twice a year. It's one where they can hear us, and we thought it'd be great. We hardly used it. We also asked our maid to dog sit for us while we were out. So when we looked at the feed, we saw the dog sitter there a solid 30 minutes early, just petting the dogs and playing with them. She's since retired from working, but she was the sweetest old lady, and we love her. Another time, my dad left a wad of cash on top of the washing machine, about $600, and she put a rubber band around it with a note saying he misplaced it. We have a security camera in my bedroom for my free roam bunny, so we can keep an eye on her whilst on work, if we go on holiday and whatever else.
Wow.
My dad is 50 and is a big bloke who acts like he doesn't like pets, and he comes over
Okay.
one day whilst I was out. He went into my room and
I didn't even know
crouched
this was
down, calling the
possible.
bunny. He spent an hour trying to pet the
Makes you
rabbit,
think there's a
kept repeating in a
stronghold,
soft
but
voice,
nah.
"I'm going to hurt you. I just want to
It's
pet
like
you and
what
see
would
how
have
fluffy
been
you
there.
are." He
Wow, I
just
did
about
not know
crapped
this was
himself when I
possible.
spoke through the security camera to tell him she's very fluffy. I'd definitely crap my pants if I was
Okay.
randomly called out for trying to pet a bun-bun. Chasing my cats around with a broom, hitting them. She's since been fired. From a cannon, I hope. My grandpa was staying with my parents, but they figured it best to hire the regular sitter to watch my younger siblings overnight, since they didn't think my grandpa was up to the task, and they were attending a wedding a couple hours away, and made plans to spend the night in a hotel nearby. They had set up a nanny cam in a couple rooms, my siblings' bedroom, the master bedroom, living room, and kitchen, all motion activated. They normally wouldn't bother looking through the footage if everything seemed fine upon returning home, and their master bedroom cam had never been triggered before. When they returned, they noticed that the cam in the master bedroom had been triggered, so they decided to take a look. Cut to footage of my grandpa and the sitter, both naked, aggressively making out.
Whoa.
Of the room, staggering while intertwined towards the bedroom, and then about 20 minutes of banging on my parents' bed. The sitter was about 20 years old, and my grandpa was around 70 at the time. My dad called me immediately after he saw the footage, laughing his butt off, and I could hear my mom crying in the background, completely mortified for what she had just witnessed, and shouting at my dad to throw out the sheets and kick out Grandpa. My mom called the sitter to confront her, and she just apologized and said there was connection, or some crap to that matter. When she asked my grandpa what he was thinking, he just said, "At my age, you must seize every opportunity." I wish there was audio for the build-up. I lay awake at night sometimes just wondering what kind of game my grandpa was talking to get in that sitter's pants. Man, I hope I'm healthy enough to be able to do this when I'm 70. I was the kiddo. My mom often tells the story of how she watched me give a big old lunch to my babysitter, who just broke down out of nowhere after serving me lunch. Turns out her dad had died a month back, and it just wasn't a good day for her. I still remember you, Ms. Yancey. I hope you're doing just fine now. She just wanted to be called Miss Phillip. The couple I sat for had a nanny cam in their living room, the kind that went in pairs. They got me on video giving their 2-year-old the Heimlich after he tried to eat a rock. We have a nanny cam, and
Wait, what?
dancing with our baby, making him laugh, and giving him kisses. She's the best, and the cameras gave us the peace of mind to know she really treats him like her own. Last year I was working for a family that had a 3-year-old and a 7-month-old. Toddler was down for a nap, so it was just me and the baby. I put on some Otis Redding and was singing to her,
Hey
and
Siri,
her mom walked in the door.
what's the most common way to die in America?
Okay, I found this on the web for what's the most common way to die in America. Check it out.
Hey Siri, play next video.
What was your high school's wild distance weird scandal? Story 1. This was a year or two after I graduated, but there was this one teacher at my high school who was fired for, in no particular order of weirdness, buying booze for students, smoking weed with students, buying weed for students, buying weed from students, writing a paper for a student for a different class in exchange for weed, driving certain students who skipped school to a bar in a different city several hours away, sending a student a completely unsolicited text that said, "I've never wanted to cheat with anyone in my life, but I want to with you," offering to buy a student a $500 knife and give it to him at school, explaining it thus,
If I can walk around campus with marijuana on me, you can walk around with a shipping box and a knife in it. Kiddo, you can't walk around campus with marijuana on you. Story 2. Long story short, a student was caught having hanky-panky with a sheep up at the tiny farm the school ran for the agricultural elective students. So, since it's been asked a few times, the only slightly longer part of the story was that the class was, as stated, an agriculture elective. Once a student had completed enough required worksheets, they got to go over to a farm and do some work instead of sitting in class writing. Not exactly easy, but it was nice when the weather was cool. This guy had the class for both morning sessions, so he said he'd just stay over at the farm and get a ride back at the end of the next class. Well, amongst other incidents, he was not the brightest bulb in the box. It seemed he lost track of time, and the next class came walking up to the barn with him balls deep in the sheep. Word was the sheep didn't seem to notice. Here's an unrelated fun fact. In some states, if you're caught making it with a farm animal, they'll punish more than you. They'll also put down the animal. I assume that's some kind of magical thing, but I can't say for sure. And I don't know why they do it. I assume they don't want the critter leading anybody else in with those tight little flanks. Story 3. The football star at my high school was accused of assaulting a 4-year-old child and went to jail for it based off very little evidence. He was sentenced to 25 years. It was my junior year, and it was his senior year. He had a full-ride scholarship to play football, and he, along with everyone else, really thought he'd make it to the NFL. He served 3 years of that sentence when the county's new DA looked over his case and saw that there was basically no evidence, so he was released. This was in summer 2017, and he was officially exonerated last year. Turns out it was his best friend, who looked just like him and lived with him, who did it. Dude is doing really well now. His girlfriend stuck with him through the whole thing, and they're married now. There's actually a documentary on Showtime about it that just came out. To save you a Google search, the documentary is called Outcry. It's 5 episodes long, so I'll probably never see it, but I figured there'd be viewers who would want to know. Story 4. My senior year, we had a freshman who became obsessed with another girl in my class. He would call her all the time, not sure how he got her number, show up at her house, and follow her around school. His harassment started to become inappropriately graphic and increasingly angry and violent. She told him to stop, and a few guys on the baseball team he was on also told him to cool it. This only intensified and resulted in him sending her a very graphic and threatening voicemail. The girl finally turned everything over to the police and school. His baseball coach was disgusted and permanently kicked him off the team, and he was suspended from school for 2 weeks. He went home that day, called the girl again, and said, "I hope you're happy, you ruined my life," and shot himself in the head. Story 5. We had a charity thing in high school where you'd raise money for cancer. The amount being raised was shown on a thermometer, and every limit would force a teacher to shave their head. On the very top was this French teacher. Anyways, the initiative was due to finish after lunch. A bunch of people are in the gym shaving their heads and trying to raise money. Bills are flying down from the bleachers, and we raised just enough money right at the bell. The French teacher was not down and ran away, causing all the students to chase her into the bathroom, banging on the door and crap. She soon after had a bit of a mental breakdown. Someone at school found her online profile, and she left. Also, some students stole all the money raised in the initiative from the gym. Wait, so a bunch of kids stole money meant for cancer research, and the main beat of the story was the French teacher not wanting to shave her head? Feels like maybe this OP's priorities were just a bit off here. In any case, the fact they literally chased her down to try and shave her makes this sound like the kind of school that would go straight up Lord of the Flies if they ever got stranded together. Congratulations for surviving that teenage wasteland. Story 6. We had a football coach doing it with one of the cheerleaders. I was so blind to it all. He was my positional coach, and I had respect for him, so I never believed it. He never talked about it, and I was friends with that cheerleader, and she always denied it. 2 years after graduation, they got married because she was already pregnant with their second child. She dropped out of college her first semester and became a stay-at-home mom. Her Facebook page now is just really sad. It's been almost 16 years since we graduated, and she still seems miserable. All her dreams just vanished, and she's still married to that coach who's getting older and fatter. He's over 60, and she's in her 30s. I just need to interject that there may be a bit of projection on this OP's part.
I'm just basing this on the fact that they feel the need to mention that her husband is getting older. Literally anyone you marry will age in the course of 16 years. Unless you marry Paul Rudd, then you're probably good. Story 7. A few years ago, I had the TV on in the background with a true crime show going. Wasn't paying much attention to it until I heard the line, "There wasn't much else for high school kids to do in wife's hometown during year wife would have been in high school." Started paying attention, and it's covering some kind of hanky-panky ring that ended with the murder of one of the participants. Brought it up with my wife, and she was like, "What? I don't remember." All right, that incident. Story 8. Principal harassed the teacher. Gym teacher was fired for being too close to female students. I couldn't get any more details, but I did witness strange behavior towards females in the class many times.
Well, I feel like I'm going to end this here, but I am going to live stream a different game. I'm going to live stream some COD, believe it or not. So, yeah, thank you all for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. I know I'm your favorite YouTuber. Goodbye. Crap, wrong button.